Hey everybody, MrBookieboo here, and I'm back with another LEGO City build series. If you've been following along, we've done a couple videos so far. It's been pretty popular and pretty well received. Thanks for the feedback and comments, I really appreciate it. And so today, I kind of, when I started the series, I didn't quite know where I was going with this, and I kind of put the cart before the horse, and I'm going to fix that today. Because today, actually, what I want to talk about is actually planning your city. Starting out, where do you begin? Because I get that question a lot. It's like, hey, MrBookieboo, I want to build a city like yours. Where do I begin? And that's a broad question. It's a huge question, and it's not. There's a lot of factors that you have to consider. You have to think of the space that you have, the sets that you have, the type of sets you want to collect, how it's all going to kind of come together. If you have other things you want to display, there's a whole lot of factors in there. And then once you kind of map out some of those things, you can start to actually get down to the planning, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of it. Personally, when I start planning, first thing obviously is figuring out the space. So, when I moved into this new house, I had this room, and this was the room, this was the Lego room. And so I knew I had to work within the confines of this room. And so I kind of started, my brain started thinking. Initially you walk into a room and you think it's a lot bigger than it is when it's empty. And then you start throwing tables and Lego in here, and next thing you know, it's full. I'm sure that happens to most of us. We can all relate to that, right? But for me, what I like to do is I actually use graph paper and pencil. It's just old-fashioned, old school, and I'll just start mapping things out and drawing it out. So this pad started when I actually was at my old house, and this has just been like an evolution. And you can see as I flip through, just kind of an evolution of ideas and concepts over the years of things that I've come up with. This is the early steps for this room here. And then it just kind of evolved from there. I started thinking this is what I was going to do, the peninsula in the middle of the room, and so on and so forth. And I just map it out, graph it out, start figuring out iterations of the different ideas. And then you can see this was, again, more with the peninsula. And then if we skip ahead here, then I decided, maybe the peninsula wasn't the best idea. Just the massive layout in the middle like I was initially planning. And then I started coming up with these different ideas that you see here. And it kind of ended up, this one at the bottom is kind of where we ended up. Kind of similar to that, not quite, but something close. And then of course I started figuring out the levels. This was like the next once I kind of had the initial footprint of what I wanted, the next step to that was figuring out the different layers and levels. And I knew I wanted the mountains. I knew, because I had limited space and a whole lot of modulars, I knew I needed some more height. Plus I really like the height for the depth and the different aspects of the height, the layers and elements like that. So I ended up starting mapping out some of that stuff and coming up with these different ideas here. And the end result, as you see behind me, of course, was a whole lot of steps that went in between that. And actually what I did, this is actually the first time I've done this, it was actually kind of fun, is when I was experimenting with the height, I couldn't quite visualize it. I drew it out, and I'm not a very good artist, so my pen and paper drawings weren't very good. So what I actually did is I actually prototyped it with Lego. And so this is like a miniature version of what you see behind me here. And you can see the mountains, the layers of the modulars. This is the street, which is actually right over the corner here where the Ghostbusters is. And that's kind of how I just like visualized it in 3 dimensions in my head, how this was going to look. These are 32 squares. This is the road. This is the railroad tracks. And then I had like the roadway. I didn't quite have actually this is the walkway. And then this is the roadway. And then there's actually another layer underneath this that I didn't even include. But it helps any way you can. So any way you can think about that, any way you can kind of visualize really helps you, whether it's drawing it out. Some people like to use the various online tools to kind of map out the city. I've used some of those. They're a little difficult for me. Again, the perception is a little bit tricky sometimes, but you can certainly use, online software to help with that. L-Draw, or there's other programs. There's, I like X-Track CAD is another one that I've used. It's actually for Lego trains, but it's actually really good because I tend to build around train tracks and things in my layouts. And so it really helps kind of lay things out and figure out your spacing and stuff. But really, again, it's figuring out the tables that you have, the space that you have, how that's going to fit, how it's going to look. And then from there, you can start to kind of visualize where the Lego is going to go, where the sets are going to go. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the sets. So as you know, the modulars are the obvious city building tools most everyone kind of starts with, is the modulars. But there's other things you can do, and there's other things, and I'm going to show you some of those. So let's take a look at some of these other things that you can use besides modulars. If you're on a budget, if you don't have a lot of room, there's a lot of different options out there. So let's take a look. So as I mentioned, modulars are the obvious starting point for any city layout. I have almost all the modulars. I'm only missing a couple. And they look fantastic. They're super detailed. They're also super massive. They're 32 by 32 base plates in size. And they're also quite tall. Some of them are really tall, like the Town Hall, the Grand Emporium. And then if you get into some of like the not official modulars, but quasi-modulars like the Daily Bugle or the Ghostbusters, they get pretty massive pretty quickly. And as you can see, just scrolling around here, they take up a whole lot of space in the city. Now, there are alternatives to that if you're limited on space or budget, because also the modulars, as you know, they're quite expensive, and especially with the prices, they just keep going up and up, right? So other things you can look at, and this is, I always love to showcase this because this is actually one of my favorite parts of my city, is these little, I call them mini modulars. They're not even full modulars, but these are old various Creator 3-in-1 sets, Creator sets, Friends sets. There's other like city sets that you can take, like for example, the tuning garage. I actually turned that into a full-fledged modular, but it is only 16 studs wide. So it's like a half modular. And then of course, this was that brownstone behind that is actually from the a Spider-Man set that came out several years ago. And I turned that into another like half modular. So there's a lot of things that you can take if you think outside the box. And it also, if you're just kind of starting off, you know, you're also kind of limited because a lot of these modulars, unfortunately, are out of production. They've been out of production for many, many years in some cases, with some of the really old ones like Green Grocer, Fire Brigade, you know, sets like that. And so you're going to pay a premium if you want to try to get these on the secondary market. You can try to assemble them from parts. You can also kind of use them as a foundation to make your own MOCs and things like that. But there's lots of other avenues that you can do. You can take an official Lego City fire station. It's a good starting point. It has some good parts, and you can use that, and you can slowly convert that into more modular-esque type of a set. Or again, you can do something like these with these mini modulars here. So these are all 16 wide. They're a lot shorter than a regular modular, but they have a fair amount of detail, and they look pretty good. They're pretty, you know, for a limited space. I have this tiny little space here, and the equivalent space in modulars, it would have been 3 times the size of this. So this gets me more, you know, more like variations, more differentiation of sets. You know, I have like I call it the Olive Garden. It's like the Italian restaurant there. There's the sandwich shop in the middle, and there's just the little townhome on the end there. And it's just a little bit of variation and difference, as opposed to, you know, waiting for the next year's modular to come out or trying to squeeze all these modulars into the space. Two other themes actually that I'll quickly mention that are worth looking into, especially if you're into the thematically, Ninjago and Monkey Kid. So these sets are fantastic for details. And right now you can actually get the Ninjago. The markets are still available. The Gardens is still available as well. And the Monkey Kid sets are pretty much, I think most of those are all available as well. Fantastic starting points, especially if you like that more, you know, ninja theme, more Asian theme type sets. These are fantastic. Really nice to work with. Really, like I say, super detailed, and you could do a lot with them. I really like these because they're also kind of broken down into like little, like mini modulars themselves almost. They're not officially modulars, but they have lots of different detail and variation to them. So they're not just one like solid building. So like when you look at, you know, again, over here at the modulars, these are just one, you know, it's the Fire Brigade. You know, you have the pet shop, you have the movie theater. They're just one building. These, almost all of these are almost designed to be different. There's multiple different buildings inside each of these sets. The docks has, you know, a dojo in it. It has like a newsstand. The city has, gosh, so many different variations in the little shops inside. There's a comic book store. There's a clothing store. There's a sushi bar on the top. There's a house. There's all kinds of different things built into this. So it gives you a lot of visual interest. And it's a really busy, bustling type of a city, which again is kind of similar to the stuff I was trying to do over here. You know, it's a more compact, more, a little less detail, not quite as big, but again, just more variation and more detail. Like going like a ping pong ball back and forth here. But over here is a similar type of thing. So this set right here on the end, the grocery store, that's actually an official set that came out. I just took it and modified it just a little bit and added a second story to it. This hiding behind the Monkey Kid set, the little sushi bar right here, this is currently available. It's a Creator 3-in-1. It's a sushi bar. You can get it on sale right now for a really good deal. That's a fantastic little mini modular that you can build out. I bought 2 of them because they were really cheap and just took the extra parts and kind of fleshed it out and made it a complete building. This set next to here, this was kind of based on another Creator 3-in-1 that came out a couple years ago with the little coffee mug. You know, I just really liked it. I thought it fit with the rest of the Ninjago stuff thematically. And so I just kind of built my own little, you know, 8-wide mini modular to fit in that space. So there's a whole lot you can do. So don't feel pigeonholed or don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't build a city because I haven't been collecting these modulars from the beginning. You don't need to feel that way. But the important steps is just to kind of go through, you know, map out your space, figure out, you know, the room or the area in your house that you're going to use for your city. Kind of start to lay out how you want to have, if you have tables to put the city on, and then if you're going to have any other, you know, display space, you know, of course I have my storage bins off to the side here with some display space on top for the Falcon and other Star Wars things that I have, but kind of just map that out. You can just draw it out very loosely. You can kind of just get an idea of what you have, and then, you know, get some graph paper or get your favorite computer design program and just start kind of laying out the tables and the furniture and see how it's all going to fit in there. And then once you have that, then you can kind of start to lay out, look at what you have collection-wise. Look at, you know, what do you have? Do you have modulars? Do you have Creator 3-in-1s? Do you have Ninjago? Do you have Friends? Whatever it is, start taking stock of what you have, and then look at that, and then you can take that and kind of go from there, and then you can start to kind of map it out and kind of build from there. And don't be afraid to change it. That's the most important thing. I get that all the time from people that tell me, you know, MrBookieboo, I don't want to change my city. Why are you always changing your city? It gives me anxiety. And I'm like, that's part of the beauty of Lego because it's not glued. None of the stuff's glued. You can change it, or you can even change modulars if you want. If you don't like the way it's designed, you don't like some particular aspect of it, you can change that. It's totally okay. That's the beauty of Lego. So again, I hope you found this useful. Let me know how you guys design your cities when you start to plan it out. Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed. Lighting is coming soon. I promise you guys that, because I know I've been promising you that one for a while. It's going to be a 2 or 3-parter though, because there's a lot to cover with lighting. And let me know if you have any other suggestions on things you would like to see in building a city, designing a city, and any questions, things like that you might have. I'll be happy to answer it, okay? Until next time, take care. Bye.